There are moments in life when we discover that the greatest wealth isn't counted in dollars, but in the quiet acts of compassion that change everything. Richard Hammond stood in the doorway of his son's bedroom, watching with a heavy heart. For 3 months now, his boy had been ill. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong. Yet 7-year-old Benjamin remained listless, pale, refusing to eat properly. Richard had tried everything money could buy, specialists from across the country, the finest medications, even a child psychologist. Nothing helped. The elegant bedroom with its cream-colored walls and expensive furniture seemed to mock him. All his success, all his wealth, and he couldn't help his own son get well. Richard was a man in his early 50s, silver threading through his dark hair. He'd built his fortune through real estate, working 18-hour days for years. After his wife passed away when Benjamin was just 3, he'd thrown himself even deeper into work, perhaps too deep. His son had everything, except perhaps the one thing Richard struggled to give: his time. That morning, Richard had made a decision. He'd hired a live-in nanny, someone who could be there when he couldn't, someone who might notice what everyone else had missed. Her name was Maya Rodriguez. She arrived that afternoon, a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and gentle hands worn from years of hard work. She wore a simple orange caretaker's uniform, her dark hair pulled back neatly. She'd raised 3 children of her own, while working multiple jobs after her husband died. Her references spoke of extraordinary patience and a gift for connecting with children. Richard showed her to Benjamin's room. The boy lay propped up on pillows in his ornate bed, staring at nothing in particular. His small face looked too thin, too pale. "Benjamin," Richard said softly, "this is Miss Maya. She's going to be staying with us to help take care of you." The boy barely glanced at her. Maya approached the bed slowly, sitting down on the edge without asking permission. A small gesture, but one that spoke of confidence and care. "Hello, Benjamin," she said quietly. "I know you don't feel well. That must be very hard." Something flickered in the boy's eyes. The briefest moment of recognition that someone had acknowledged his suffering without trying to fix it immediately. Richard left them alone, grateful but uncertain. Over the next few days, Maya settled into the Hammond household. She noticed things. Benjamin's barely touched meals. The way he tensed whenever his father entered the room, not from fear but from something else. Expectation, perhaps, or a desire not to disappoint. The fact that despite having a room full of expensive toys, the boy seemed lonely. Maya didn't push. She simply sat with him, reading stories in her warm, unhurried voice. She told him about her own children, now grown. She listened when he occasionally spoke, never interrupting. But Benjamin didn't improve. One evening, nearly a week after Maya arrived, she was tidying Benjamin's room while he dozed. She'd learned his habits, how he liked the curtains drawn just so, how he clutched a particular stuffed bear when he slept, though he'd never admit it while awake. As Maya straightened the bedding, she noticed something. The ornate rug beside the bed was slightly askew, with visible marks in the hardwood floor beneath, as if something had been dragged repeatedly. Curious, she got down on her knees and looked under the bed. What she found took her breath away. There, hidden in the shadows, was a cardboard box. Inside were dozens of drawings. Crayon pictures on notebook paper. Every single one showed the same thing. A small boy and a tall man, holding hands, playing together, sitting side by side. In some, they were at a park. In others, just talking. The figures were simple, childlike, but the emotion in them was unmistakable. Underneath the drawings was a small notebook. Maya hesitated, then opened it. In Benjamin's careful handwriting were entries, dated over the past several months. "Today I pretended to have a headache. Dad stayed home for 2 hours. Today my stomach hurt. Dad sat with me and read to me. It was the best day. I don't want to lie anymore, but I don't want Dad to leave either." Maya's eyes filled with tears as understanding washed over her. Benjamin wasn't sick. He was heartbroken. And he'd found the only way he knew to get his father's attention, to keep him close, even if just for a little while. She sat back on her heels, the notebook in her hands, thinking about her own children, how after their father died, they'd acted out in different ways, each seeking reassurance that they wouldn't lose her too. She remembered her youngest, Maria, who'd developed mysterious stomach aches that vanished the moment. Maya stayed home from work. Maya heard a sound and turned. Benjamin was awake, staring at her with wide, frightened eyes. He'd seen her with his secret. "Please," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Please don't tell him I've been faking. He'll be so angry. He'll think I'm bad." Maya moved to sit on the bed, still holding the drawings gently. "Oh, sweetheart," she said softly. "You're not bad. Not even a little bit." "But I lied," Benjamin said, tears spilling down his thin cheeks. "For months and months, I made everyone worried. I made Dad spend all that money on doctors. You did something that hurt you more than anyone else," Maya said, "because you were already hurting inside. That's what people do sometimes when they're in pain they don't know how to name." "I just wanted him to stay home," Benjamin sobbed. "I just wanted my dad." Maya gathered the boy into her arms, letting him cry against her shoulder. "I know, baby, I know." When Benjamin's tears finally subsided, Maya made a decision. "Benjamin, I think your father needs to know what you've been feeling. Not because you've done something wrong, but because he can't fix what he doesn't understand. He'll hate me. He loves you," Maya said firmly. "More than anything in this world. But grown-ups, we sometimes get lost in our own worries and forget to see what's right in front of us. Your father has been trying so hard to take care of you by working and making money. He forgot that what you needed most was just him." "Will you stay?" Benjamin asked. "When you tell him?" "Every second," Maya promised. That evening, Maya asked Richard to join them in Benjamin's room. The wealthy man entered looking exhausted, worried as he'd been for months. "Mr. Hammond," Maya began gently, "I found something today. Benjamin and I think you should see it." She showed him the drawings first. Richard's hands trembled as he looked through them, one after another. Then the notebook. As he read his son's words, tears began to stream down his face. "Benjamin," he whispered, setting the notebook down with shaking hands. Is this true? You've been pretending to be sick?" The boy nodded miserably, unable to meet his father's eyes. What happened next, Maya would remember for the rest of her life. Richard Hammond, this man who ran a company worth millions, who negotiated deals and commanded boardrooms, simply crumpled. He sank to his knees beside his son's bed and wept. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "Benjamin, I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have had to pretend to be sick to get my attention. You should never have felt so alone that this seemed like your only choice." "I'm sorry too, Dad," Benjamin whispered. "I'm sorry I lied. You were trying to survive losing your mother and losing me at the same time," Richard said, pulling his son close. "That's not your fault. That's mine. I thought I was taking care of you by making sure you had everything. But I wasn't giving you what you needed most." Father and son held each other, crying together, finally breaking through the wall that grief and loneliness had built between them. Maya quietly started to leave to give them privacy, but Richard called her back. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. If you hadn't cared enough to look, to really see him—" "That's what love does," Maya said simply. "It pays attention." The change in the Hammond household didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. Richard restructured his entire life. He promoted a trusted colleague to handle the daily operations of his company. He still worked, but from home several days a week. He started having breakfast with Benjamin every morning. They established a routine. Dinner together every night, no phones, no work calls. He learned about his son's life, his favorite subjects in school, his fear of dogs since a neighborhood incident, his love of drawing, his dreams of maybe becoming an architect someday. Within 2 weeks, Benjamin's mysterious illness completely resolved. He started eating properly again. Color returned to his cheeks. He smiled more. The worried crease disappeared from between his eyes. But more than that, Richard discovered something he'd forgotten in his years of grief and work. The pure joy of being a father, of helping with homework and hearing about playground politics, of reading bedtime stories and tucking his son in, of simply being present. Maya stayed on, no longer as a caretaker for a sick child, but as a cherished part of their household. She became like family, helping in ways both practical and profound. She taught Richard how to cook Benjamin's favorite foods. She organized play dates with other children from the neighborhood. She was there for both of them, a steady, kind presence. One evening, several months later, Richard found Benjamin drawing at the kitchen table while Maya prepared dinner. "Can I see?" Richard asked. Benjamin showed him. It was another drawing of the two of them, but this one was different. They were both smiling. They were building something together with blocks. In the corner of the picture, Benjamin had drawn a woman with kind eyes and an orange dress, Maya watching over them with a gentle smile. "This is us now," Benjamin said. "We're happy now." Richard picked up his son and held him close, this precious child who'd nearly slipped away from him, not to illness, but to the simple, devastating absence of attention and love. "Yes," he said quietly. "We are happy now." As Maya watched them, she thought about the twisting paths that had brought them all together. Her years of struggle and loss had given her the wisdom to see what others missed. Richard's grief had taught him finally what truly mattered. And Benjamin's desperate, heartbreaking deception had ultimately saved them all by forcing the truth into the light. Sometimes the most valuable things in life can't be bought. They can only be given, freely, consistently, with presence and attention and love. That night after Benjamin was asleep, Richard spoke with Maya in the quiet kitchen. "I've been thinking," he said. "You changed our lives. You saved my son. You saved both of us, really?" "I just paid attention," Maya said modestly. "That's exactly it," Richard replied. "In a world where everyone else saw a medical mystery, you saw a little boy who was lonely. You took the time to look under the bed, literally and figuratively." He paused. "I want to establish a foundation for single parents who are struggling to balance work and children, for kids who might be lost in the cracks like Benjamin was, and I want you to help run it. Your wisdom, your understanding. That's what's needed." Maya's eyes widened. "Mr. Hammond, I'm not educated like that. I'm just a—" "You're just the wisest person I've met," Richard interrupted gently. "You understand what matters. That's worth more than any degree." The foundation became reality over the following year. It provided support, resources, and most importantly, education about the emotional needs of children. It trained counselors to look beyond symptoms to underlying causes. It created after-school programs where kids could feel seen and heard. Benjamin, thriving now, became its youngest advocate, speaking with touching honesty about his own experience. And Maya, the woman who'd arrived with nothing but a worn suitcase and a heart full of compassion, found her calling, helping other families discover before it was too late what the Hammond family had learned the hard way, that the greatest gift we can give anyone, especially a child, is not wealth or comfort or even protection from pain, but simply our presence, our attention, our willingness to get down on our knees and look under the bed, to find what's been hidden in the darkness and bring it gently into the light. Because sometimes the answer to what's wrong isn't found in medicine or money, it's found in love.